The first shot shattered the sky like a hammer striking glass, and in that single violent instant, both pilots understood a terrible truth. They were already supposed to be dead. The Pacific morning had begun deceptively calm. Pale sunlight spilled across the open water, turning the endless ocean into a sheet of hammered silver. Far below, scattered islands clawed up from the horizon like dark scars on a beautiful world. From above, everything looked peaceful, too peaceful for a war that had been tearing men apart for years. Two Allied fighters cut through the air in tight formation, engines humming with a steady, almost comforting rhythm. That sound was the only thing holding back the dread pressing heavy against their chests. Lieutenant Jack Mercer flew on the left wing, hands firm on the controls, eyes never still. He was 26 years old and already felt far older than that. The cockpit smelled of oil, hot metal, and sweat, his sweat. He wiped his brow with a gloved thumb and glanced to his right. Captain Elliot Red, Hawthorne flew beside him, calm as ever. Red had earned his nickname, not just from his hair, but from the stubborn streak that made him impossible to shake once he believed something mattered. He met Jack's glance and gave a brief nod, the kind that said we're still here. For now. They had been sent on a reconnaissance and interception patrol. On paper it was routine, but nothing in the Pacific ever was. The briefing had been rushed. Thin. Enemy activity suspected. Possible bomber escort. Maintain radio silence unless engaged. 2 fighters. Just 2. Jack remembered thinking it was odd, then unsettling, then deeply, unmistakably wrong. The radio crackled once. Static. Then silence. Minutes passed. The horizon ahead darkened, not with clouds, but with movement. Tiny specks appeared in the distance. Too many specks. Jack leaned forward, squinting. His stomach tightened. Red, he said, breaking radio silence despite himself. You seeing that? Red didn't answer right away. He didn't have to. The specks multiplied, swelling into sleek, predatory silhouettes with long wings and rising suns painted on their fuselages. Japanese fighters. Dozens of them. Then more. Then more still, pouring into the sky like a swarm released from a shaken nest. Jack counted without meaning to. 10. 20. 30. He stopped at 60. Jesus, he breathed. Red's voice came through the radio, low and steady. That's not an escort. That's an execution. There were 2 dots in a sky that suddenly belonged to the enemy. Turning back was an option, but only in theory. The Japanese fighters held altitude, numbers, and the sun at their backs. Running now would mean being hunted, picked apart over open water with no cover and no mercy. Fear flared sharp and hot in Jack's chest. But beneath it, something colder settled in. Clarity. We can't outrun them, Jack said. No, Red replied. But we can make them work for it. The first enemy fighters peeled off in dove. The air screamed as tracers stitched white lines past Jack's canopy. His aircraft jolted violently as he yanked the stick, G-forces crushing him into the seat. The world shattered into fragments, sky, ocean, gunfire, shadow. This wasn't a battle. It was survival measured in seconds. Jack fired in short, controlled bursts. One Japanese fighter crossed his sights for half a heartbeat. He squeezed the trigger. The aircraft shuddered as rounds tore forward. The enemy plane lurched, smoke coughing from its engine, then fell away spinning toward the sea. Jack didn't cheer. He didn't smile. There was no time. Red was already deep in the chaos, climbing hard, drawing 3 fighters after him. Stick close, Jack, Red barked over the radio. Don't let them separate us. They flew like men bound by instinct, covering blind spots, breaking just before collision, rejoining as if pulled by invisible wire. Japanese fighters swarmed them from every direction, disciplined and relentless, confident in overwhelming numbers. That confidence was a mistake. Jack saw a Zero slide onto Red's tail. Without thinking, he rolled inverted in dove, firing upward. The Zero exploded in a flash of fire and torn aluminum. Got him, Jack said, breath ragged. Much appreciated, Red replied, almost casually. Minutes stretched into something unreal. The sky became a rotating cage of violence. Jack's arms burned. His throat felt raw from shouting warnings. His fuel gauge crept downward with quiet indifference. Then the damage began to show. A sharp bang rattled the cockpit. Warning lights flickered. The engine coughed once, then steadied, but the sound had changed. The smooth hum was gone, replaced by a rough, uneven growl. Red, Jack said. I'm hit. Where? Not sure. Engine's not happy. Stay with me, Red said. Just stay with me. They weren't fighting to win anymore. They were fighting to escape. Somehow, through luck, skill, and the enemy's growing confusion, the pressure eased. The swarm loosened. Japanese fighters began circling instead of diving, as if unable to understand how two men were still alive when they shouldn't be. The ocean opened beneath them again, wide and empty. Jack didn't realize how badly his hands were shaking until he tried to adjust the throttle and nearly missed it. "I don't think they expected us to last this long," he said. Red gave a short, humorless laugh. "Neither did I." Fuel was dangerously low. Ammunition nearly gone. The engine temperature needle crept upward, trembling like a nervous finger. Then land. An Allied airstrip carved brutally out of jungle and coral. Thin. Fragile. Salvation. Jack lined up for approach. The engine sputtered again, louder this time. "Come on," he whispered. "Just a little longer." Red touched down first, wheels screaming against the runway. Jack followed seconds later. The instant his wheels hit, the engine gave one final, shuddering cough, and died. Silence rushed in, sudden and overwhelming. Jack rolled to a stop, heart hammering, breath shallow. For a long moment, he just sat there, hands frozen on the controls, staring at the dead dials. Red climbed out and jogged over, stepping onto Jack's wing. He looked at the damage, then met Jack's eyes. "Your engine waited," Red said quietly. Jack swallowed. "For what?" "For you to live." The sky above was empty again. No fighters. No gunfire. Just blue, endless and indifferent. 2 pilots had been sent against 60 fighters. And somehow, impossibly, they had come back. But the war wasn't finished with them yet. The mechanics swarmed Jack's aircraft immediately, faces tightening at the shredded metal. "This bird's lucky she didn't tear herself apart," one muttered. Jack didn't feel lucky. Not yet. Inside the operations shack, the colonel listened in silence as the truth came out. 60 fighters. Bombers hidden beneath the clouds. A strike forming. "So we were bait," Jack said quietly. The colonel didn't deny it. The next day they volunteered again. Because someone had to. When the Japanese strike finally came, it was met head-on. Squadrons rose. Guns roared. The sky burned. Jack flew again. Red covered him again. The storm broke, and this time the Allies were ready. The attack failed. The cost was heavy. But catastrophe was avoided. The war moved on. Red transferred out. They shook hands by the runway. "Hell of a way to meet," Red said. "Hell of a way to survive," Jack replied. Years later, long after the war ended, Jack stood at the edge of a quiet airfield. A young pilot once asked him if he had been afraid. "Yes," Jack said. "Every time." "Then how did you keep flying?" Jack looked up at the endless sky. "Because sometimes," he said, "the sky chooses you. And turning away costs more than going in." 2 pilots had been sent against 60 fighters. They didn't win the war. But they changed its direction. And sometimes, quietly, invisibly, that is enough.